Good morning, Year 4s. So today's maths lesson, we're going to be calculating the perimeter of a shape. So we have looked at perimeter before this year, but today we're just going to be revising what it is. And your success criteria is to recall the meaning of perimeter. So do you remember what it is? Identify perimeter of different shapes and calculate the perimeter. So to begin with, we will do our starter. So you can do this on a piece of paper at home. Pause the video and then we will mark it together afterwards. Okay, great, well done. So these are your answers. Okay, so your big question is, what is the perimeter of the football pitch? So I really want you to have a think back. Do you remember what perimeter means? Okay, so perimeter is the outside of a certain area or the outside of a shape. So if we had to look at the perimeter of this football pitch, it would be measuring the outside of the football pitch. Okay, we call that the perimeter. Okay, so if we add measurements to the pitch, we can also calculate the perimeter. And I've just put here not to scale, because remember that means that this is obviously not 100 meters on my screen, but in real life, this football pitch would be 100 meters and 67 meters. Okay, so why do we need to know the perimeter? So in real life, if somebody had to build a fence around this football pitch, they would need to calculate the perimeter to find out the exact measurements they need to build a fence. So like in the previous picture, we can see that this side is 100 meters. And then this side is 67 meters. Okay, but what about these two sides? How are we going to calculate these two sides? So I want you to have a think about how you're going to know what those measurements are. Okay, so if you think back to your properties of shapes, we know that this shape here is a rectangle. We know that rectangles have got the same measurements on the opposite sides. So because this side is 100 meters, we can then say that this side will be 100 meters. And this side is 67 meters. So this side will also be 67 meters. Okay, and it's really, really important to always put the units on the end of your number, because if you just left it at 67, it could mean 67 centimeters, it could mean 67 kilometers, but it is actually meters, and it's really important to know that. Okay, so now if somebody had to build a fence around the football pitch, they would know the lengths of all the sides. But we still need to calculate the total perimeter. So yes, we've got the lengths for each side, but how much fencing is he going to need for the whole football pitch? So what we do is we've got to add all of those together. So you will have a sum that looks like this. 100 plus 100 plus 67 plus 67 equals. Okay, so you've got to add up all the four of the sides. You can't leave out any of the sides. Okay, so then how you add that up is completely up to you. If you want to do that mentally in your head, that's fine. If you want to do column method, that's also fine. It's completely up to you of how you get the answer. So I know already that 100 plus 100 is 200. And then 67 plus 67 is 134. So then I just need to add these two together, which gives me 334. And then I must not forget the meters. And then to finish off, it's really important to put P equals 334 meters. So that P stands for perimeter. So instead of writing out the word perimeter, we can just write P equals 334, and then the unit is meters. Okay, so I hope you're kind of getting, or you're kind of remembering back to when we did perimeter at the beginning of this school year. So we're going to just look at another one now. So sometimes you'll just get shapes instead of an actual picture like a football pitch. So think about how you would calculate the perimeter of these shapes. So some of them have got question marks and some of them have got all the measurements for you. So I'd like you to pause the video now and then just on a piece of paper, redraw the shape, put the measurements in, and then add the perimeter. Now the shape doesn't have to be exactly 4 centimeters. You could just draw it not to scale, but if you label it as 4 centimeters, then we will know that it's 4 centimeters. Just have a go and then we will look at those answers together. Okay, well done. So if we look at the first shape, we can see that they've given us one side, which is 4 centimeters. So how are we going to tell what the other 3 sides are? Well, I look at this and I know that I can see that it's a square, and I know that a square has got equal sides. So because a square's got equal sides, I know that every other side is going to be 4 centimeters. And then to calculate the perimeter of that shape, my sum is going to look like this. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals. So you wouldn't really need to do column method with this. It's basically counting in 4s. So 4, 8, 12, 16. And another way you could have done this is because all the measurements are the same, we could have just said 4 times 4 equals 16. Okay, and then don't forget, we need to put in for the final line of our answer, P equals 16 centimeters. Okay, then we look over here at the rectangle. So just like our football pitch, we know that the opposite sides of a rectangle are the same measurements. So this side will be 10 centimeters because this side is 10 centimeters. And this side will be 2 centimeters because the opposite side is also 2 centimeters. Okay, so once I've found all the sides of the shape, I can add them together. So my sum will look like this, 2 plus 2, or 10 plus 2, 10 plus 2 equals 24. Therefore, P equals 24 centimeters. Okay, then this shape gave us all the measurements, which is a nice one to have. Sometimes they will give you all the measurements. So all we had to do was 5, add 6 equals, and you can see that that's 16. So the final answer is P equals 16 centimeters. Okay, so that's how you would look at finding the perimeter of a shape. Now, sometimes the shapes can look a little bit more complicated. And these are called rectilinear shapes, where the shapes are joined at right angles. So you've just got a few more sides that you'd need to find out the measurement of, and they don't look like the normal shapes that we would normally know, like circles or squares or rectangles. So with this one, think about how you would figure out what the other sides are. This one as well, what sides are missing? And then this one, how would you find out the missing side? So just pause the video. These are a bit more tricky, but just have a think about how you're going to find those other measurements. Okay, great. So if I look at this first one, I can see that if I had to draw lines, and you can always do this, and obviously you don't have paper, but if you had to redraw the shape, you could do it. If I had to draw imaginary lines in the middle of this, I can actually see that every single shape here is a square. And I know that the sides of a square are equal. So if this side is 2 centimeters, and I know that all of these are squares, then I know that this side will be 2 centimeters. I also know that this side will be 2 centimeters. And this side, 2 centimeters. And this side, 2 centimeters. So every one of these will be 2 centimeters, because we've got squares. And it's always a good idea to write them in as well. Okay, so it's quite a lot of sides, but now when we add them up, it's also really important to not skip a side. So what I normally do is I take a color pencil and I draw the color while I'm counting my sides. So this one's quite nice because we can just count in twos. So if we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So P equals 24 centimeters. Okay, because I added up to 12 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so this one, we would have seen that this shape is a rectangle. So then we could have added in our other missing sides here. So 8 centimeters here because it's opposite that one. And 5 centimeters here because it's opposite that one. But we're still missing this side and this side and this side. So if you look at that shape, you can see that that shape is a square. And because we know that squares have got the same measurement on every side, we'll know that this side is 1 centimeter. This side is 1 centimeter. And this side is 1 centimeter. Okay, so now that you've got all the sides, you can add them up. And of course, you can write your sum as well. So we've got 1, add 1, add 1, add 1, because we've got 4 sides of 1 centimeter. And we've got plus 8, plus 5, plus 8, plus 5. Okay, so then you would add that up. So I would do 5, add 5 is 10, plus 8 is 18, plus another 8 is 26, then 27, 28, 29, 30. So for this one, P equals 30 centimeters. Okay, great. And then the last one, and these ones are often quite tricky. So we're looking for that measurement. I'm going to just make that in orange because we don't have one for that. We're looking for this side, which is the green one, because that side is 3 centimeters. And then we're looking for this long blue one. Okay, so we've got the 7 down here, we've got the 1 up here, and we've got 3 down here. So how are we going to find these 3 shapes? Because on this side, I've got 7 centimeters. But this side, I don't have the same length, so I can't say that that's 7. Okay, so if I had to draw in my orange an imaginary line to make it, well, it doesn't have to be imaginary, actually, you can draw it in, to make it the same length as that side, I could put, for now, that orange line is 7 centimeters. And then if I look here, that is 3 centimeters. So actually, I can say that from that point to that point is 3 centimeters. Okay, that means this part here, I'm just going to change it to red. So this part here is going to be 4 centimeters because 3 plus 4 is 7. Okay, so the whole line is going to equal 7. because that whole line equals 7. But if I had to split this into 3 centimeters, because that's 3 centimeters, that is going to be 4 centimeters. And then I can actually take that away. And I can take that away now, because that's not actually what we're measuring. We're just measuring that part. Okay. Then if we look at the blue line, we can see that the blue line is actually, sorry. Okay, let's get a blue line. Okay, so the blue line is this length over here, if we measure it exactly the same. So we can see that we've got 1 centimeter here, and then this part has got to match the green line. And we don't have the green line yet. So we actually have to find the green line first. So how are we going to get the green line? Okay, so what I can do is I can again draw another line to extend this. Okay, now this new shape that I've created is a square. And again, we know about a square is that all 4 sides are the same. Therefore, I know that that side is going to be 4 centimeters. And I also know that this side up here is 4 centimeters. So now I've found my green line because I drew another line to see another shape. So we know that that's 4 centimeters, and we can see that over here, we've got 1 centimeter is that length. So this length will also be 1 centimeter. Okay, so the total length of that line is going to be 5 centimeters. All right, so now let's just get rid of this blue line. Okay, perfect. So now we've got all the lengths of each side of this shape. So now we can add them together. So my sum is going to be 7 plus 1 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 for this bottom line, because 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay, so 7 plus 1 is 8, then 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 5 plus 4 is 15, plus another 5 is 20, and then plus another 4 is 24. So P equals 24 centimeters. Okay, so those ones are quite tricky, and it takes a lot of practice to get those ones correct. Okay, so your activities for today, so everybody will be doing the same activity. So the following questions are also on Microsoft Teams and under a quiz. So please, if you've got Teams, definitely go do the quiz, because all of these pictures are in a quiz where you can then answer the questions. Okay, so I'll just go through them here. In case you don't have Teams, then you can do the questions on here on a piece of paper. So these are 4 shapes that we need to find the perimeter of. Now there's no measurements on any of the shapes, but it tells you that 1 square equals 1 centimeter. So if I know that 1 square is 1 centimeter, then when I count the shapes, or I count my sides, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because I've got 5 squares, and each square is 1 centimeter, that means that side will be 5 centimeters. So you're going to have to count how many squares you have for each side to calculate the perimeter. Okay, then this one, they've given you the measurements. This one, you'll have to find the 2 sides. And then these are 2 word problems that you need to work out the measurements for, or the perimeter for. And then the last 3 questions are finding the perimeter of rectilinear shapes. So those trickier shapes where not all the sides are given. So obviously you can write this down on a piece of paper to work out the problem, but then you can just submit the answer into the quiz on Microsoft Teams, or send us a picture of your work if you do not have Microsoft Teams up and running yet. So well done for listening to that lesson, and I hope that you have fun finding the perimeter of these shapes.